line.
Good evening, I'm Jim Lara. On the NewsHour this Thursday, the lead story, the prospect of bankruptcy for General Motors. The other news of the day with another stock market dive, the White House summit on health care reform, state Supreme Court arguments on same-sex marriage in California, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other matters, as seen by former Iraq Study Group Chairman James Baker and Lee Hamilton, and a trip to Bountiful by Horton Foote.
Major funding for the NewsHour with Jim Lara is provided by...
The world is changing, and how we use energy today cannot be how we'll use it tomorrow. There is no one solution. It's not simply more oil, more renewables, or being more efficient. It's all of it. Our way of life depends on developing all forms of energy and to use less of it. It's time to put our differences aside. Will you be part of the solution? Chevron, human energy.
What has made Grant Thornton a truly global accounting organization with access to resources in more than 100 countries? Is it their global capabilities, or is it their passion for how they serve their clients? Grant Thornton.
And the National Science Foundation, supporting education and research across all fields of science and engineering.
And with the ongoing support of these institutions and foundations. And
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
The future of General Motors became a question mark today. Its own auditors raised substantial doubt it can survive without a major restructuring. GM is currently seeking up to $30 billion in government funds to stay afloat. Over the past 3 years, the company's losses have totaled $82 billion. The news helped drive stocks down on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 281 points to close at 65.94. The NASDAQ fell 54 points to close at 12.99. Both lost more than 4%. Ray Suarez has our lead story report.
The possibility that GM may still need to file for bankruptcy loomed again today following that ominous report from the company's outside auditors. For more, we're joined by Frank Langfitt, who covers the auto industry for NPR. And Frank, what did the auditors say today to shine such a harsh light on General Motors?
What they said, Ray, is that there's substantial doubt that it can continue as an ongoing concern. And what that means in audit speak is basically the company doesn't have enough money going forward, and that if it doesn't continue to get enough revenue or get more help from the government, it could be headed into Chapter 11 bankruptcy court.
Now, earlier in this crisis period, let's say fall of last year, they forecast trouble, but they said they still were sitting on a substantial amount of cash. What happened to all that cash?
They've been burning through it really fast at rates of $1 billion or even $2 billion a month. And one of the things that's happened recently that's really accelerated the problem is car sales have just collapsed. Consumers have lost confidence. People are putting off buying a new car. And so, for instance, in February, GM's car sales fell year on year about 53%. Very hard to run a company in that kind of condition.
In this filing, has the company itself started to lay out scenarios for a possible bankruptcy?
It did that back in February. If you remember, there was that viability plan that it sent to the White House Auto Task Force. And it laid out several scenarios for bankruptcy, but it's also said all along it does not want to file. Its great concern is that unlike, say, a steel company or an airline company, it makes a product that it's afraid people just won't want to buy if they think the company isn't going to be around for a while.
Now, today, General Motors closed below $2 a share. Now, this was once the largest industrial corporation on planet Earth.
Absolutely.
Did this signal that even as GM is asking for more money, that there's a really substantial question about whether it can survive just the next several months?
I think it is very much up in the air. And what's going to be really interesting is to see what the White House Task Force does as they look at this issue going forward. They have this month to work with the bondholders, the United Auto Workers, to try to get GM's costs down so that they can continue to move forward. And only if the White House task force thinks that they're really viable going forward will they be able to get more government money.
Let's talk about the bondholders and the union. Now, the bondholders obviously are holding a substantial amount of GM debt. They met with the Obama task force this week. Do you know anything about those conversations?
Well, I think they're very tough conversations. The bondholders, like all the other stakeholders in this, they want to cut the best deal that they can. And one thing that they're concerned about, they want to stay out of bankruptcy court because a bankruptcy judge can be a little like Solomon. A bankruptcy judge can really enforce terms that are kind of outside the political arena. So right now they're trying to work with GM and with the task force to get the best deal they can. What GM wants to do is give stock in exchange for payment on the bonds. But of course, as you just mentioned, that stock is continuing to fall. So the bondholders are worried about how much they're really going to lose here.
What about the United Auto Workers? Didn't GM borrow heavily from their retirees' health care system?
The big issue on retiree health care is this. Over time, GM's going to owe the United Auto Workers about $20 billion. It made a deal more than a year ago to offload the health care retiree benefits to the union. Now it doesn't have the cash to pay that. So again, it's offering stock. United Auto Workers are also very concerned. You know, they want to make sure that they have money to take care of their retirees.
So are suppliers, are parts companies starting to get the GM contagion? Are they in as much trouble as the company now?
That's a really big story that hasn't been covered enough. Some of the suppliers are beginning to edge towards bankruptcy, and their concern is that with these falling auto sales, it's this upstream impact, that if there are fewer cars being sold, there are fewer parts. And so they're actually, as you well know, they're actually asking for the Treasury Department for a lot of money, too, to get them through this period.
NPR's Frank Langford, thanks for joining us.
Happy to do it, Ray.
In other economic news, new requests for unemployment benefits dropped unexpectedly last week, but overall remained high. The Labor Department reported the number of workers filing dipped to 639,000. Still, more than 5 million Americans are now claiming jobless benefits. The House of Representatives moved toward passage of a bankruptcy home loan bill. It's part of a larger housing rescue package. It would let bankruptcy judges cut mortgage payments for some homeowners. Democrats praised the legislation. Republicans said it could actually raise interest rates.
The safeguards are there. The opportunity is before us. The question is, do we want to protect Home Street to the same extent that we want to protect Main Street and Wall Street? There are people who are suffering. This is the opportunity to help them.
This legislation will punish the successful, tax the responsible, and hold no one accountable. If we pass this legislation, what message does it send to responsible borrowers who are making their payments on time? How can we ask them to foot the bill for their neighbors' mortgages?
That House debate came on the same day the Mortgage Bankers Association reported a record 5.4 million American homeowners were late making mortgage payments last year. In other news today, NATO agreed to restore its ties with Russia. The decision came at a meeting of foreign ministers in Brussels. Normal relations were frozen last summer after Russia's incursion into the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. At the same meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Clinton called for a high-level international conference on stabilizing Afghanistan, and her invitation included Iran.
We have presented this idea, which is being discussed, nothing has been decided, as a way of bringing all the stakeholders and interested parties together. If we move forward with such a meeting, it is expected that Iran would be invited as a neighbor of Afghanistan.
Separately, Clinton called for the immediate release of an Iranian-American journalist being held prisoner in Iran. Roxana Saberi has reported for the BBC, National Public Radio, and other media. She has been detained for the past month. Swiss officials are helping the U.S. gain more information on her condition and her whereabouts. In Iraq, a car bombing south of Baghdad killed at least 13 people. The explosion tore through a busy livestock market in a mainly Shiite area near the town of Hilla. Police said dozens more were wounded. In political developments in Iraq, the parliament broke a deadlock and passed its 2009 budget. It was sharply reduced to $59 billion on account of falling oil prices. The president of Sudan expelled 3 more aid organizations on top of 10 that were kicked out yesterday. President al-Bashir ordered the aid organizations out after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him for war crimes. At a rally of his supporters in Khartoum, al-Bashir denounced the UN and other international organizations.
We refused to submit to colonialism and rejected all kinds of economic, political, and diplomatic pressures. For 20 years, we are in a constant battle against neocolonialism and all the tools, starting from the Security Council, the IMF, the Criminal Court, and all the institutions that they try to use to recolonize people and loot their resources and capabilities.
Aid workers warned their expulsions could lead to a humanitarian crisis, especially in Darfur. And UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon warned al-Bashir's actions would cause irrevocable damage. He urged the Sudanese government to reconsider its decision. And next, the push to overhaul health care in America. President Obama tried to kickstart those efforts today with a health care summit at the White House. More than 150 leaders from Congress, business, medicine, and consumer groups were there. He told them the status quo was no longer acceptable. Here is some of what he said.
We're here today to discuss one of the greatest threats, not just to the well-being of our families and the prosperity of our businesses, but to the very foundation of our economy. And that's the exploding costs of health care in America today. In the last 8 years, premiums have grown 4 times faster than wages. An additional 9 million Americans have joined the ranks of the uninsured. The cost of health care now causes a bankruptcy in America every 30 seconds. And by the end of the year, it could cause 1.5 million Americans to lose their homes. Even for folks who are weathering this economic storm and have health care right now, all it takes is one stroke of bad luck, an accident or an illness, a divorce, a lost job, to become one of the nearly 46 million uninsured, or the millions who have health care but really can't afford what they've got. Let me be clear. The same soaring costs that are straining families' budgets are sinking our businesses and eating up our government's budget too. The call for reform is coming from the bottom up and from all across the spectrum, from doctors, from nurses, from patients, from unions, from businesses, from hospitals, healthcare providers, community groups. This time, there is no debate about whether all Americans should have quality, affordable health care. The only question is how. And the purpose of this forum is to start answering that question, to determine how we lower costs for everyone, improve quality for everyone, and expand coverage to all Americans. And our goal will be to enact comprehensive health care reform by the end of this year. In this effort, every voice has to be heard. Every idea must be considered. Every option must be on the table. There should be no sacred cows.
Jeffrey Brown has more about where reform efforts may be heading.
And for that, we have our own mini summit with 3 people who took part in today's gathering, representing consumers, doctors, and business. Ron Pollock is the executive director of Families USA, a consumer advocacy group. Dr. Nancy Nielsen is the president of the American Medical Association. And Helen Darling is the president of the National Business Group on Health, which represents more than 300 large companies. Well, Ron Pollock, first, help the rest of us understand where we're at today. How much actual consensus is there now on what can and cannot be accomplished?
I think there is a growing consensus. What's totally different from what we experienced in 1993, 1994, and other past failed attempts is that the various stakeholder organizations, whether they're doctors or nurses or hospitals or the business community, we're all actually trying to sit together to find common ground. And I think there's a better chance of passing health care reform this time than ever before. The president clearly wants it. All of the committee chairs have said this is their top priority. The stakeholder organizations are trying to cooperate with one another and are doing so far. So I think we've got a real shot of getting health reform done this year.
Helen Darling, I mean, we heard the president, interesting, several times he said, this time, clearly contrasting to 1993 and other times. What do you think?
Well, I think with his leadership and with the collaboration of the political leaders, because it's all about leadership at this point, and which isn't to say there are not a lot of complicated problems that need to be solved, but there is consensus in some big areas, including that there has to be adequate, affordable coverage for all Americans, and there's agreement on that. And I think there's probably less agreement before, even though people thought they believed that, but there is a commitment this time around that I don't remember seeing before. There's also just the one final point is the emphasis on having to control costs was not there before, and that's completely different, and I think that's something that everybody understands. We don't really have a choice anymore.
Do you agree with that, especially on the emphasis on cost, Dr. Nielsen?
Yes, I think so, because we do spend a great deal in this country compared to what is spent in other countries, and so there's no question that we need better value for the healthcare dollar. I want to add just one thing, Jeff, to what is different this time, and that is with people losing their jobs in droves and therefore losing their health insurance, the status quo is simply not acceptable. So it's both the cost issue and the number of people without insurance that is going to drive this to a conclusion.
But doesn't that very thing make this even harder? I mean, the economic downturn, make it harder, stretch the system even more?
It makes much more tension for change. That's true, but it doesn't make it impossible. In fact, controlling the healthcare costs and getting better value for those dollars is going to actually be the key to improving our economy. And the president has said that, and there is great agreement about that.
So if everyone agrees that the system doesn't work and that we're at a moment when something can happen, what are the tough choices that have to be made? When you look, Ron Pollock, at the situation, the things that you've wanted for many years, particularly access, greater access, what kind of tough choices are going to have to be made to provide that?
Yeah, just one point about that access. We just issued a report that showed in the last 2 years there were 86.7 million people who didn't have health coverage for some portion of that 2-year period. So the key issue, I think, that's going to confront the Congress is whether there's going to be an upfront early investment to try to make sure that the subsidies that are needed to make health coverage affordable will be provided. We've got so many people who today are just priced out of the healthcare system. And so the president has made a significant investment. He's put up $634 billion over 10 years, fully paid for. But he's also made clear it was a down payment. And I think that's going to be the toughest thing, because if you don't get that upfront investment, then you won't have the subsidies and people still will not be able to afford health care coverage.
Right, but he put up the $600 billion in this blueprint, and then right away many experts said, well, that's only about half of what it would cost to do what he wants to do. So where do you see the tough choices to get there?
Well, I think one thing is someone will have to decide, and it's not clear who that'll be, is whether or not the package of coverage that's going to be offered and paid and have to be paid for is going to be very rich, or it's going to be adequate and good, but not totally comprehensive. And the hardest decision, particularly for the people who want universal coverage, is to say we may not immediately be able to afford everything for everybody at the first year out, because the packages right now in the United States, unless somebody's going to give up some income, and there's not a lot of evidence that anybody wants to do that, cost a family about $15,000 is a comprehensive package of coverage in this country right now. But coming up with that for families and to finance that, particularly all the ones who will need subsidies, especially now, is going to be very hard.
Well, right away, there's a level of friction that you can imagine, sort of cultural and social. How much care should people get? Where do doctors see the kind of friction point?
Well, we certainly feel the pain of our patients. We know what happens when patients don't have health insurance. So it is really a moral imperative, as the President said, that we get to covering everyone. But the issue is about value. What is it that we're getting for those dollars that we're spending? And this is frankly a shared responsibility. And that was actually addressed a little bit in the final session, but not enough yet. Every one of the stakeholders in all of this enterprise is going to have to be able to come to grips with, let's look at how we can do things more efficiently.
Well, can I ask you, though, to
Sure.
be specific? In
Sure.
the case of doctors, I mean,
Sure.
is there a specific savings
Absolutely.
that you could offer to us now?
Absolutely. First of all, we've seen a jump start on that in the stimulus package with the promise of helping doctors have health information technology that will allow us to be more efficient. It's not efficient to not have a laboratory value or a chest x-ray and have to do it again. It costs money, it's not good for patients, it's not good for anyone. So health information technology will enable us to do things better. But what I want to also throw in here is that it is a shared responsibility, and when you look at the costs, 75% of the costs are due to a few chronic conditions. If we can really invest in prevention and wellness as a society, then we're going to prevent those very costly conditions that emanate from obesity and diabetes and cancers due to smoking and that sort of thing.
Ron Pollock, big things on the table, cost, quality, access. Is it possible to deal with all three at the same time? What if it comes down, for example, to dealing with costs at the expense of wider access for a time?
I don't think you really can trade those things off. We clearly would like to make sure, as the President said, that everyone has access to high-quality, affordable health care. But as you expand access, if you don't deal with cost, that's going to be a Pyrrhic victory, because over time, individuals, families will not be able to afford the coverage. Businesses will no longer feel that they can provide coverage to their workers. And so you've got to do both things at the same time. That's different from what happened in 1993, 1994. I think the public perceived the debate in 1993, 1994 to only be about coverage, as important as that is. But we have to combine coverage with cost, and when we deal with cost, we have to make sure that we improve quality. And I think those are not incompatible.
Do you think all three are possible, particularly, again, at a time of economic crisis when there's not a lot of money out there?
Well, I would say, again, we have to do all three simultaneously. And in some important ways, there are opportunities on the quality and safety side, as Dr. Nielsen talked about in health information technology. We can get much better care for people with health information technology. We can also improve, reduce errors and safety problems in hospitals, healthcare-acquired infections. Those are things that cost a lot of money. They drive up costs of healthcare right now. And if we can improve the record in those areas, we can have safety, quality, reduced costs, and better access.
Okay, I note that Orrin Hatch today, he said that bringing you all together, for the President to bring you all together was probably the easy part, and he said there will be some broken pottery soon enough in this process. Can we all agree on that?
Well, there are going to be some issues. I mean, you even saw when the President put on the table the $634 billion. One group raised an issue there, another group. But I think we're together to try and make this happen at the end of the day.
Okay, thanks very much. Ron Pollock, Nancy Nielsen, and Helen Darling. Thank you all three.
Thank you.
Now the continuing battle over same-sex marriage in California. The state's Supreme Court heard arguments in that case today, and NewsHour correspondent Spencer Michaels was there.
The stakes were high this morning as hundreds of people on both sides of the same-sex marriage debate gathered outside the California Supreme Court in San Francisco.
Ceding judicial power to the...
Today's proceedings, which were broadcast live, focused on three lawsuits seeking to overturn Proposition 8, a constitutional amendment which defines marriage as between a man and a woman. Californians voted for the measure 52 to 48% last November.
California voters had once before, in the year 2000, passed a ballot measure designed to ban gay marriage. But in May of 2008, the California Supreme Court declared that law unconstitutional because it failed to provide equal protection for gays and lesbians.
That opened the door for same-sex couples to legally marry in the state. 18,000 tied the knot between May and November of last year. Opponents of same-sex marriage responded with Proposition 8, this time a change to the state constitution. Its passing not only halted the new weddings, but it put the status of the 18,000 previously married couples into question. Last night, advocates of same-sex marriage staged a vigil, marching from the Castro district, where many gays live, to the California Supreme Court. Among those protesting were Jenny Olson and Julie Dorff, a married lesbian couple with their 2 daughters. Before the election, their 5-year-old daughter Sylvie worried that Prop 8 would split up their family.
Sylvie said to me, so just very casually, so if Prop 8 wins, who do I go with, Mommy Julie or Mommy Jenny?
What do you want to see the California Supreme Court do at this point?
Well, I mean, we hope that at a minimum they uphold the marriages that have already occurred. And more than that, I think it's time to say measures that are specifically taking rights away from minorities should not be allowed to be voted upon by the California people.
Sponsors of Proposition 8 argue that a majority of voters elected to ban same-sex marriage, and the will of the people cannot be denied. Frank Schubert was campaign manager for Yes on 8.
The people are the supreme power in California. They created the judiciary, they created the legislature, and they control the Constitution. And they have decided that marriage should be between a man and a woman.
Their case was argued in court by Kenneth Starr, the former prosecutor in the impeachment of President Bill Clinton.
We want to restore the traditional definition that has been in place since this state was founded, and almost every other court in the country has agreed with the rationality of that.
Proponents of same-sex marriage argued that Proposition 8 did not go through the correct procedures to amend the state's constitution. University of California law professor Vikram Amar explained.
The challengers to Proposition 8 argue that the change that it makes is so fundamental that it ought to be considered a revision, not an amendment, and because the legislature did not initiate Proposition 8, then it's invalid because it didn't go through the right procedure.
Such revisions are very rare. Attorney Shannon Minter represented same-sex couples in court.
The core of our argument is that a simple majority cannot be permitted to take away rights from a historically disadvantaged minority.
But Justice Joyce Kennard was skeptical of that argument.
The people are those that have created the Constitution. And I think what you're overlooking is the very broad powers of the people to amend by initiative the Constitution.
This week, the state legislature passed a resolution siding with opponents of Proposition 8. Gay activist and state assemblyman Tom Amiano argued that marriage for gays and lesbians is a civil right.
The Constitution has to recognize it. It may make you uncomfortable, it may make you want to move away, but that doesn't make it right.
I confess to Almighty God.
But George Niederauer, the Catholic Archbishop of San Francisco, who worked hard to get Prop 8 passed, sees things differently.
California's been a state for nearly 160 years. For all of that time until May of this year, there was no civil right in California for same-sex couples to marry.
Despite Prop 8's passage, the closeness of the vote and public opinion polls suggest the trend is in favor of those supporting same-sex marriage. Law professor Vikram Amar says that's a fact the California Supreme Court may take note of, a court that 50 years ago struck down a ban on interracial marriage nearly 2 decades before the U.S. Supreme Court did.
When the courts banned racial segregation in schools or eliminated barriers to interracial marriage, that might have seemed a little aggressive at the time, but within a generation, Americans broadly rallied around that, and today we take it for granted.
Nonetheless, some legal scholars say the Supreme Court may be reluctant to overturn the vote of the people. A decision on the case is expected within 90 days.
Still to come on the NewsHour tonight, Baker and Hamilton and Farewell Horton Foote. But first, this is Pledge Week on public television, and we're taking a short break now so your public television station can ask for your support. That support helps keep programs like ours on the air.
Hi, I'm Allison Frost from OPB News, here with Vince Patton from OPB TV. There are some things in life that make such a difference they become a necessity. For so many people in our community, OPB is one of those things. And programs like the NewsHour is just one of the reasons this is true. That's what OPB is all about. Programs you value, programs you trust, programs that illuminate our world and keep you connected to it.
Life truly is better with OPB, and OPB is better with you. Your financial support brings us all more informed news on the NewsHour every night. It brings us the world with unparalleled coverage of national and international news.
And it gives us the opportunity to listen to each other through in-depth interviews and features. You make it happen at OPB. It's time for you to make your contribution to keep OPB thriving. Call 1-800-245-2346 or give online at opb.org.
People like you provide the vast majority of OPB's funding. In fact, 70% of the funds we raise come from OPB members, from people like you. It's a very special community of people who come together each year to help make our world a better place through OPB. It's more welcoming and inclusive. It's more concerned with citizens than consumers. And it's more open and curious about the world.
And that's why your financial contribution now makes such a difference. Please make that call of support now to 1-800-245-2346 or give online at opb.org. It doesn't take much, but it does take everyone.
Of the 117,000 people who support OPB each year, some give $10, some give $100, some give $1 a day, and some join our Cornerstone Society with a gift of $1,000 a year.
And the truth of the matter is that the amount you choose is up to you. It really is your participation that matters most. In fact, basic membership in OPB, which includes our monthly program guide, now with listings and highlights for all 3 of our digital channels, is just $35 a year. For seniors and people with disabilities, it's just $25 a year. And it's been that way for more than 20 years now.
Through all the change that's happened in our communities in the past 20 years, we haven't changed the price to join OPB one bit. That's because your participation is what really counts. We want membership to be available and affordable for everyone who lives here.
And it's your support that truly makes OPB television worth talking about. And speaking of things to talk about, we have some wonderful gifts to thank you when you contribute in support of OPB right now. Give $60 and we'll thank you with this brand new beautiful ceramic mug with a fantastic design of the Three Sisters Mountains on it. It's perfect to make your mornings happier with your favorite beverage.
Or contribute $90 in support of OPB Now. And that's just $7.50 a month. And you can make your life more refreshing because we'll thank you with our very popular stainless steel water bottle, complete with a lovely mountain scene and Bruno the elk looking on.
Or if you'd like to make your life more artistic and wear your support of OPB, we'll be pleased to thank you with our newest Oregon Icons t-shirt. We'll send it your way in your choice of size, extra small through extra large, when you make a generous gift of $120 in support of OPB Now. That's just $10 a month, and it's a gift that will pay off for you and our community every single day of the year. What could be better?
This is how you take that important step. Grab your credit card, go to your phone or computer, and make your gift now. Please call 1-800-245-2346 or visit opb.org. And when you do, you know you'll be doing your part to make life better for everyone who lives here in our region.
OPB truly is better with you, and you make it all happen here. Thank you for your support.
And next tonight, Baker and Hamilton. Former Secretary of State and Treasury Secretary James Baker, a Republican, and former Democratic Congressman Lee Hamilton. They co-chaired the public study group that reviewed Iraq policy in 2006. Hamilton also was co-chair of the 9/11 Commission. Both testified in Congress today on war powers legislation, and I talked to them earlier this evening. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Congressman Hamilton, do you support President Obama's troop withdrawal plan for Iraq?
Yes. I think he's really following the recommendation that Jim Baker and I made several years back, and exit in a responsible way. I think the exit is going to be tougher than maybe the president thinks, certainly most Americans think, because the fundamental problems have not been resolved in Iraq. But even so, it's time for the Americans to begin to pull out and let the Iraqis take over. We can't stay there forever.
But the study group's plan was for a much earlier withdrawal than finally happened here, correct?
Well, that's not really true, Jim. What we said was that with proper training of Iraqi forces, American combat troops could be withdrawn by March 2008. Could be.
Could be.
Not
okay.
Should be or would
right.
be. And that, by the way, was the Bush administration's own date, General Casey's own date. But to amplify a little bit on what Lee said, the Obama administration is also proceeding with the diplomatic initiative that we call for in the Iraq Study Group, and they're opening discussions, as you know, with Syria, extensive discussions with Syria.
And looking back on it now, the two of you really studied this Iraq situation from beginning to end. Was it worth it, Mr. Secretary? Was this war worth it? What we
I think the jury is still a little bit out on that, Jim. I mean, the verdict on that will come in if we're ultimately successful. And as Lee just said, President Obama has been cautious in the pace of withdrawal of American combat forces. I think we're now talking about 19 months instead of 16 months. If at the end of that time, Iraq is a stable country and a friend of the United States in connection with the war on terror, yes, it will have been worth it. We have to wait and see whether that's the case.
You agree? It was a war we should have fought?
I think the verdict is still to come. I think Iraq could go in any number of directions. It could become a chaotic place. It could become a dictatorship. It could become a reasonably stable country with a good influence in the region. It will not become a flourishing democracy. But whether or not the war is judged a success or not, I think still remains to be seen.
What about Afghanistan? President Obama is going to send 17,000 more American troops in there. Is it a parallel situation at all with Iraq? Is this the right thing to do, or the right decision to make now, looking at it now?
Well, you know, the attack on the United States in September 2001 originated in Afghanistan. I think it's the right decision for the United States and for the President of the United States to be very concerned about that country becoming a safe haven for other terrorist attacks on the United States. So I must say, yes, I think so. Hopefully that we won't have to be gradually escalating the number of troops. There's a serious, everybody will tell you today that we have some serious problems there. We need to see more participation by our NATO allies in the fighting there. But is it the right decision to try and deny Afghanistan, deny a failed state to Al-Qaeda? Yes, it is.
Is it a war that is winnable? Is it a war in a traditional sense, Mr. Hamilton, that, hey, okay, now we're going to go to war, we're going to escalate the war with 17,000 more troops in Afghanistan, and in such and such a time we're going to win this war?
Well, I hope not.
No, it's not that.
No. My deep concern in Afghanistan is mission creep. I do not think we can make Afghanistan a flourishing democracy. Afghanistan has been like it is for 1,000 years. It'll continue to be like it is for 1,000 years. And we have to have a real strong dose of realism to understand our limitations there, no matter what resources we put in. And I don't think the American people would support very large resources for a long period of time. But what Jim said is correct. Our enemy is Al-Qaeda. and we should go after Al-Qaeda and the extremists, and we should not take our eye off the target.
I don't think our goal there is a Jeffersonian democracy. The president has been clear about that. The new president and the Secretary of Defense, who carried over from the Bush administration, they both said very clearly, denying Al-Qaeda a failed state in Afghanistan is our objective.
But, Mr. Secretary, this has been going on since 2001.
That's right.
And there we are. We're putting 17,000 more troops in there.
Well, that's
what
right.
happened?
Well, that's right. Well, what we had in there before wasn't enough, obviously.
But that was it.
But the objective is still a very noble and worthy objective, in my opinion. This is where the attacks on the United States originated from.
We cannot permit Al-Qaeda to have a sanctuary.
No.
2001 came about because they did have a sanctuary in Afghanistan, not interrupted, protected by that country and its government, and they plotted and planned that attack against the United States. You've got the same thing now. Al-Qaeda has a sanctuary, not this time in Afghanistan, but in Pakistan. We cannot permit that because that does represent a threat to the United States.
Now, we're talking about two wars here. Both of you are very much involved, and you've just testified today, in fact, about the war powers legislation, et cetera, and the way the United States now officially goes to war. Does it work? Does our system for going to war work?
Well, I think it has worked, but it's not the best system. And we were charged with the obligation of trying to see if there were any suggestions we could make to improve it. We've come with a different bill, a different statute. We call it the War Powers Consultation Act of 2009 to replace the failed War Powers Resolution
that just doesn't work,
of
does it?
73. No, it doesn't work. It was passed over Nixon veto. It's probably unconstitutional. Every American president, Democrat or Republican, has treated it as unconstitutional. So what we're calling for is a practical approach. We recognize this is not going to solve the constitutional arguments that the branches engage in. Nothing could solve that except a Supreme Court decision or a constitutional amendment. We don't even try to. We protect the right of each branch to make its constitutional arguments, but we say there's a better way to go, and this is it. More consultation at the beginning.
Now, consultation, one person's consultation is another person's whatever. Secretary Baker, you come primarily from the executive branch. Right. Congressman Hamilton, you spent, what, over 30 years in the House of Representatives. Is there legitimate consultation, or should there be more legitimate consultation between the executive branch and the executive, or is it the way it is now? The president decides to go to war, they go to war, right?
My view is that if an American president wants to go to war, the Congress cannot stop it.
Should that be the way it is?
Well, it is the way it is.
It is the way it is.
And you're not going to change that, and we don't change it by this statute. What we try to do is to make sure that the President of the United States, when he has this awful decision in front of him, gets the best possible advice, not only from his official team, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and so forth, but also from the Congress, which can give independent advice. They're not dependent on him for a job. And the president needs to touch all the bases before he makes the gravest decision that a government makes. Do you send young men and women into war? We want to make sure there is meaningful consultation. Now, that's a limited effort.
And there isn't now. What you're both saying, there is not meaningful consultation.
No,
sometimes there is, sometimes there's not.
Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. What we seek to do here is simply to formalize the process, specifically tell in the statute who the president should consult with, the leadership of the Congress, leadership of the relevant committees, and so forth. And it requires the president, before initiating a significant armed conflict defined as one that lasts more than 7 days, to go to the Congress and talk to them about it, meaningful discussion, timely exchange.
But they don't have to
of views.
vote. They don't have to vote.
Then the statute requires that they vote.
Oh, they do.
Within 30 days that they vote up or down on it. If they vote it down, of course, if they vote it up, the president goes ahead with his plan. If they vote it down, it will have to be presented to the president as a resolution of disapproval for his signature under the presentment clause of the Constitution. If he vetoes it, that's the end of the line. If he vetoes it and they have 2/3 vote to override it, it's not the end of the line.
Finally, I started to say political, but it's not a political question. You're a Democrat, Congressman Hamilton. You're a Republican, Secretary Baker. How well do you think President Obama is doing? He's 6 weeks into the job now. What kind of wake are you seeing here from this presidency so far?
Well, let me say this as a Republican and one who's been an adversarial Republican. I think this president came to office with some of the greatest challenges facing him of any president in my experience and in my lifetime, particularly given what's happened to our economy. So he's got to focus on a whole lot of things. I think he's doing a pretty darn good job of doing that. Do I agree philosophically with some of his conclusions? No, I do not. I'm a conservative Republican. He's a Democrat and perhaps a liberal Democrat. I do agree with much of the pragmatic approach that he has exhibited toward foreign affairs and toward international relations. I think I see there a very healthy dose of realism. And I see a foreign policy that looks not a whole lot unlike the foreign policy of President Bush 41's administration, President George H.W. Bush.
Hamilton?
Well, legislatively, pretty impressive. A stimulus package, extending health care to children, dealing with employment discrimination with regard to women. I think it's domestically a pretty good record. He has a proposal before the Congress, proposals, I should say, that are really transformational in this country. And he's rolled the dice for a major change of direction. I don't know whether he can pull it off. I don't know whether the Congress can deal with all that at one time. But I do think he has the support of the nation at this point for genuine change in education and health care and energy and other areas. On foreign policy, I very much agree with Jim. He is a pragmatic fellow when it comes to foreign policy, and he wants to know how to solve the problem. And when you talk to the president, he wants to know, with regard to Iran, with regard to Syria, with regard to the peace process, what do I do now?
How do I get it done?
How do I get it done?
He listens? Does he listen?
Not beyond that. He listens. He understands what you say. There's a big difference. He does.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And finally tonight, a scene from the master storyteller Horton Foote. He wrote more than 60 plays and films capturing the dignity and frequent struggles of American life. He died yesterday at the age of 92. Foote was awarded the National Medal of the Arts, a Pulitzer Prize, and 2 Academy Awards, the first for his movie adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962. Here's a scene from The Trip to Bountiful, his play that he adapted for the movies in 1985. We see the main character, Carrie Watts, talking to a young stranger on a bus as she makes a final visit to her Texas hometown.
Nobody needs to be ashamed of crying, because we've all dampened a pillow sometime or other. I know I have.
If only I could learn not to worry.
I know. Guess we all ask that. Jessie May, my daughter-in-law, don't worry. What for, she says. Well, like I tell her, that's a fine attitude if you can cultivate it. Trouble is, I can't any longer.
It is hard.
I didn't used to worry. When I was a girl, I was so carefree. I had lots to worry me, too. Everybody was so poor back in Bountiful, but we got along. I said to my papa once after our 3rd crop failure in a row, whoever named this place Bountiful? He said his papa did, because in those days it was a land of plenty. You just drop seeds in the ground and the crops would spring up. We had cotton and corn and sugar cane. I think it's the prettiest place I ever heard of. Jessie May says it's the ugliest, but she only says that to bother me. She only saw it once, and that was on a rainy day. At that, she says it's nothing but an old swamp. That may be, I said, but it's a mighty pretty swamp to me.
That actress, of course, was Geraldine Page. She won an Academy Award for her performance. And again, the major developments of this day. General Motors auditors raised substantial doubt it can survive without a major restructuring. The news helped drive stocks down on Wall Street by more than 4%. And late today, the House of Representatives passed a bankruptcy home loan bill. It lets bankruptcy judges cut mortgage payments for some homeowners. We'll see you online and again here tomorrow evening with Mark Shields and David Brooks, among others. I'm Jim Lara. Thank you and good night.
Major funding for the NewsHour with Jim Lara is provided by
oil, energy, the environment. Where are the answers? This isn't a liberal or conservative issue. It's a human issue. As an energy company, Chevron has a great responsibility. So we've improved our own energy efficiency 27% since 1992. And now we ask you to join us in one of the most important efforts of our time. Using less. Will you join us? Chevron, human energy.
Grant Thornton. The Atlantic Philanthropies. And with the ongoing support of these institutions and foundations. And
this program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
I am PBS.
Just as 2 voices are stronger than 1, 1,000 voices are stronger than 10. 117,000 voices are a virtual chorus, working together to make OPB all that it is. Hi, I'm Vince Patton, here with Allison Frost of OPB Radio. That's how many people join together each year, 117,000 people, to bring OPB to everybody in our community. They are the people who help make life better for everyone who lives here.
And you are the one who can make a difference now, because life is better with OPB, and OPB is better with you. It's your financial support, your investment in OPB that makes the programs you love shine. Your support creates a first-class outlet for the best independent and unbiased news around. Your support helps us all stretch our minds and challenge our imaginations.
Your support allows us to explore the world and the people who live in it in ways we never could without OPB. From the NewsHour to Oregon Field Guide to Antiques Roadshow, Nova, and Masterpiece, OPB enriches our world with the best of science, the best of nature, the best of history, and the best of the arts.
It's your support that allows OPB to do this so well. Please take a moment now to join the chorus of people who back OPB. Make a gift now. Call 1-800-245-2346 or give online at opb.org.
Whether you join OPB with a contribution of $35 or whether you can support OPB with a larger gift of $60, $100, $200 or more, you make all the difference here. As a steady viewer and fan of the excellent public affairs programs you find here on OPB every day of the week, you know there's simply nowhere else you can find this level of integrity than on OPB.
Call 1-800-245-2346 or use our safe and secure online giving form at opb.org. This special kind of programming has been a staple on OPB since the very beginning. The NewsHour, Washington Week in Review, Frontline, Nightly Business Report, Now, and much, much more. And because we're public television, we have a very special commitment to giving you what you want from these programs. It's non-biased, nonpartisan, in-depth news and analysis. Frankly, it's television that matters.
It's a fact that public broadcasting is the most trusted media institution in the nation. And it's a fact that you simply can't get anything of this quality anywhere else on the dial.
OPB is not driven by the ratings game. It's not swayed by advertising dollars. OPB is created only to serve you. And that's exactly why we're asking you to support OPB now. We're independent and proud to be that way. But that means we must rely on you to pitch in. Well, I'm familiar with that, right?
Internet circuit file. Let's go to Nashville, Tennessee, which has been named the manliest city in America. New study used criteria like the number of professional major league sports teams, popularity of the tools and the hardware, frequency of the monster truck rallies. The least manly city on the list, New York City. Apparently because it lacks in areas such as fishing, home improvement, and drag racing. Now, where's Portland on there? 47th out of 50. Wow. Seattle was number 40. But my question, how could we possibly be number 47 with guys like...
You guys?
We're manly! See you tomorrow, folks.
Fisher Communications.
안녕하세요. 한국에서 인사드립니다. 이제는 저도 꿈에 그리던 미국 땅에 오게 해주세요. 저도 행복한 캘리포니아 소로 꼭 뽑아주세요. 캘리포니아, 캘리포니아, 헤이! 끝없는 벌판에서 즐겁게 뛰놀고 싶거든요. Thank you.
Great milk comes from happy cows. Happy cows come from California. Look for dairy brands with the real California seals.
픽수, she's got soul.
If you have fibromyalgia and experience widespread muscle or joint pain, excessive fatigue, and trouble sleeping, you may qualify for an FDA-approved prescription drug research study for fibromyalgia. Call Summit Research Network, 503-228-CARE.
Get your next loan with convenience, privacy, and peace of mind at Silver Lining Jewelry and Loan. You'll find an ethical, experienced, and compassionate staff ready to help you get a regulated collateral loan. Next time you need a loan, visit Silver Lining Jewelry and Loan.
Tired of glasses? Sick of contacts? Wish you could afford LASIK? Well, now's the time to call LASIK Plus Vision Center. We don't just change your vision, we could change your life. And now you could get $400 off. Plus, it's easy to qualify for no money down and no interest financing for 24 months. So call now to speak to a LASIK specialist and schedule a free, no-risk, no-obligation LASIK vision exam with one of our doctors and find out if you're a candidate for LASIK. At LASIK Plus, all we do is laser vision correction. And with over 1 million procedures, you can trust your eyes to the experts at LASIK Plus, treating nearsighted, farsighted, and astigmatism. So call LASIK Plus now and get $400 off LASIK. No money down and no interest for 24 months. This special offer won't last. Hurry. Call now. 1-800-216-2020. 1-800-216-2020. We don't just change your vision. We could change your life.
There has always been in this nation a spirit that just plain knows what's necessary when faced with a challenge. Judgment, some courage, but most of all, a willingness to act, to move forward. During the Great Depression, at AT&T, we built the most sophisticated phone system in the world. Sure, it created jobs, but it also created a future no one had dreamt of. We've just built the world's first 40 gigabit data network, a faster and more advanced broadband network than any other in the world. In 2009, we plan to invest billions of dollars into infrastructure, and we're bringing home over 5,000 American jobs, with 3,000 home already. If what we do stimulates the economy, that's critical. But if it stimulates an even stronger future for all of us, even better. We're AT&T, your world delivered.
U.S. Bank, 5-star service guaranteed.